I would like to take a moment to share a little bit about me with you and then encourage you to spend me understanding a bit about diversity and the impact it has on our lives, businesses, communities, specifically your life as it relates to the things you would like to accomplish moving forward. There are two things that I would like to start the program with. One is I've heard on numerous occasions imagination is the greatest nation in the world. And if we're able to use that well, um, having people benefit from its use is one of the greatest things that can happen. The second piece that I would like, a word I would like to share is perception. It is not other people's perception of you that's important, although it is. Your perception of you is most important. A little bit about me. I am one of six, three other boys and two girls, two sisters I love dearly, Esther and Janice, and I'm excited to um, share those names with you. Esther Aquila being the queen, and Janice Nadine being the drill sergeant. But that's all I'll say about my lovely sisters. I love them both. And my brothers to uh, form a core of the family network initially. However, oftentimes the things you want to do cannot be satisfied by the immediate family network uh, simply because you've grown together and you already know each other's skills, challenges, weaknesses, and sometimes you must work outside of those parameters to gain ground, to gain strength, to gain knowledge, and to grow into who you as an individual want to be. The first phase of diversity is looking outside of the family for resources that will help you to become who you want to be. Secondly, uh, coming from the Caribbean, Barbados, what we call paradise, a lovely island in the sun, um, it was very apparent early that things would be very unique in terms of development. Um, when this process started, my mom was quite independent entrepreneur, stylist, and my dad was equally independent as a missionary, a therapist, and multi-talented fellow. You know, they say in the Caribbean, you're not doing it till you have three jobs, and he did that and did it with a great deal of skill, balance. We still have a lot of time with dad. So I think dads are a very important part of the lives of youngsters and keep a certain balance and discipline and direction. So I encourage all of those who are dads to love one of the youngsters, and those who are dads and sort of avoiding the responsibility, get engaged, get involved. It has some wonderful rewards, and it makes for much happier children and much happier society. That's on parenting. Now, as we get to actual performance in the world, expectations, productivity, workforce, I started as a youngster um, delivering clothing from my dad's factory, which was one of his enterprises, to stores, and developed a great deal of um, sales skills, I thought, at an early age. However, sales skills need to be developed, honed, fine-tuned, and my mother sort of had greater sales skills than all of us because she just told us what to do. And there wasn't much discussion. It was just accomplished. So I say that because one of the reasons that I came to the U.S. is mom said, somebody said that they could get you into Harvard, and I think that that's the best place for you. And I know nothing about Harvard, thought, well, if mom says that's the best place for me, I will accept that. So, sometime in the 70s, early 70s, I came here with the intention of going into Harvard and realized that there was a lot more to getting into Harvard than, than was initially explained. So, although getting into Harvard would have been a very unique move in terms of education and diversity in the educational space, from what I understood about Harvard, it would have been also a challenge without preparation, but challenges are things that I love. However, the rules were not flexible, and we had to do some diversion, diverse, yes, we had to divert our attention uh, to other resources that might have been more beneficial and productive at the time, rather than worrying about things that we had no control over at that time. Now, for most individuals in an educational setting, here's where the rubber meets the road. Education was important, and coming from where I came from, Barbados, the benchmark was not the color of your skin, but the school you attended. And whether it was Harson College, Combermere, Lodge, Coach Parry, there were several of them. But it seemed as though, to me at least, that there was a tier of activity, and those that went to Harson College, sort of had a leg up on many of the activities. So I came to the U.S. with a real thirst for knowledge and education because I saw that as the best way to succeed. Today, years later, uh, the process still seems the same. Education is the best way to succeed. Without knowledge, you're in ignorance, and with ignorance, it's hard to progress. So, as we move through the academic arena, gain knowledge, gain skills, I spent some time in the military as part of that experience because we were told that, if you spend some time in the military, we'll still be able to get you in Harvard. That was the recruiter's line. So we know the stories of recruiters nowadays, and I will leave that right where it is. So we move forward, and today the benefit of the experiences are cumulative. We spent some time in the military, as I said, and moved into financial services shortly thereafter, and then subsequently real estate, where I've been now for more than 35 years. It has allowed the development of some unique experiences, some great relationships, some investment opportunities, which would otherwise not have been available. And we continue to be able to do things for friends, family that move the needle forward as we work together. Life continues with or without us. We have challenges in life, and we have choices about what to do with those challenges. We can face them, deal with them, put them behind us, or we can pretend that they don't exist and they continue to recur, or we can be buried by the challenges because we become overwhelmed as a result of poor planning or no planning. So I always encourage individuals, regardless of what field you're in or what field you're going to go into, to have a plan, because without a plan, the likelihood of failure increases significantly. And some individuals will argue there's no such thing as failure. I believe failure is how you learn. A kid um, fails in some space, does not measure up, he or she now has the opportunity to regroup and move beyond that by gaining the knowledge necessary to move beyond that. And if we don't sort of challenge ourselves, then it is very difficult to move forward. So education being one of the foundational pieces of growth is something I would like to convey as a part of this discussion this evening. We will talk more about real estate investing and the other benefits of such educational foundation pins as we move forward. The experience in the world of investing um, came in many ways. We held several licenses in the securities industry and sort of spoke regularly on those topics. However, the system sometimes frowns on individuals with such licenses providing information for fear that it could be misleading. In this forum, I would ask that those individuals who may have that decision making capacity reconsider the um, challenges put before investment advisors and so forth, because everybody advertises today, but to be muzzled in a way that defies uh, reason, where you are unable to speak what you feel, think, or reason because it might influence somebody's decision. We have things that are influencing people in a very negative way and creating havoc in our society, and those things continue to be available. I would believe that it might be much more beneficial to allow those with good thoughts, good ideas, and good suggestions by reason of experience and knowledge and training to be able to share those things in the world of investing than it is to keep them um, sort of restrained in terms of sharing information and allowing that to stay in the domain of others who are not so willing to share such information. As we move along the continuum, we're in a place in time where, since the early 70s, financial services has been an anchor for what we've done, and we moved from financial services into real estate in the early 80s and continue in real estate to today. I had planned, and I'm excited about sharing this with you. I had a plan with about 37 points that I needed to accomplish, and I set those things out when I was about 20, 21. I don't remember the exact date now. But that experience of planning and laying out the things I wanted to accomplish was very instrumental in helping me to accomplish those things. Uh, Even fortunately, Harvard was not on the list. But the last thing that I wanted to do, the first thing I wanted to do, was to fly as a pilot, and it became the last thing that I did, with the help of some wonderful daughters who I sort of am very excited about having. Um, the oldest two daughters made that very possible, Michelle and Erica. I guess with others, made it possible for me to experience flight even without sight. So uh, that I'll tell you a little bit more about later on. At this moment, though, looking past that, I shared all of that because my plan was retirement at age 45, um, devoting myself to the ministry after that, and to a home for 60 to 80 youngsters between 11 and 19 who would otherwise not have been had the opportunity that would have been afforded them as part of that process. And I know there are many youngsters who still would need such an opportunity, and that is still part of my plan moving forward. So the reason for sharing that is sometimes we talk about challenges that we have in life. Everything was going along very smoothly, graduated from college. As a matter of fact, I graduated from college. I tell friends when I speak, and you not know it, is I spent a great deal of time at Harvard, and I enjoyed my time at Harvard. I spent most of the time there in the library, but I graduated right from the college next door, which is Lesley College. So it's still a very unique experience having had the opportunity to work and play in that space, study in that space as well. And when I say work, I'm talking about academic work. So we um, worked through the academic challenges, uh, continued to work in the field of real estate and finance, built an exciting practice in the greater Boston area and stretched across to Las Vegas, Nevada. Lots of wonderful clients and those that get to see and hear. You know, I love you all, appreciate all of you, and still do to this day because we have clients that we've been serving for 4 generations since 1977. And that's more than one family, and I appreciate that loyalty. And I believe it speaks volumes for our organization and the team of people we work with. We just love the folks that we have an opportunity to serve and really live to serve those individuals. Uh, the piece that jumps out though is during this process, uh, real estate became increasingly exciting. As I shared in one of my writings, one of the books we wrote, I made more money selling my first piece of real estate in the 70s, 79, I believe, than I did from earnings that year in the military. Our military is a great place. I'm not knocking that at all. I'm just saying the opportunity to do real estate became very apparent, very exciting when I realized that I made more on the sale of a property than I made working for the year. So it became a quite a attractive path to follow. Just about the 45th birthday, when I was anticipating retirement, nature played a joke on me, and I thought I had it all wrapped up. And just when you think you have everything wrapped up, you know, there's a level of confidence that comes, and sometimes you start thinking, well, I'm good at this. I can do this, and there's a higher power, I believe, that says uh, you can do it with my help. If you choose to do it without me, I'm not sure that will work. And I know there are lots of knowledgeable, talented individuals who soar in their specific careers and areas of expertise and begin to think that it's all of them. And that may be good for them. But for me, I like to maintain a certain level of, if you will, humility because it helps to keep me grounded, moving forward and in place where I can help others rather than to think that I may be better than someone because that is far from the truth. I think most people are better than I am. I just work hard at being who I am and delivering the services that I do, and people begin to appreciate that. So, in spite of our levels of confidence, I believe a great measure of humility is essential because nobody likes to be spoken down to or spoken over. Everybody likes to be heard and appreciated. And as servants in whatever field we choose, we certainly have to exemplify that mastery of service by paying attention to the needs of others. The work beyond that was pretty exciting. And I say exciting because of all the things that we were able to do and share and help others with. One of the things that I hear a great deal from clients in the service, Richard, you've given me hope. I'm glad I came to speak with you. I'm glad I called. I'm thinking differently. And it's always good to hear those comments, that feedback, because you know that something you're doing is working. However, we cannot become complacent. We have to continue working forward, learning, growing, because only by refilling can we have something to share. So, getting back to the sharing, we also come back to diversity. We share in many arenas, and by color, race, ethnic groups, countries. I've traveled extensively: Africa, Europe, England, the Caribbean, the United States. Um, there is still yet more to see and yet more to do. There are many others that still need help. And to the extent that we're able as a group to be able to help others, I want to continue to be a part of that process. Uh, I receive help from others on an ongoing basis, whether it's coaching or, in a number of different ways. So we all need each other. No man is an island unto himself. We go through the stages of dependence as kids, as children, babies. We come into teenagers and young adulthood, and we think we can do everything independently. And then we get to the senior years, and we realize we need to become dependent or interdependent. We have to help others to help themselves, as we may need help along the way. And then we get to the stage where we become dependent all over again, and the cycle starts. So life is a process, and diversity is a part of that process. It comes in many different ways, and we as individuals have to be poised, knowledgeable, aware to be able to adapt in each circumstance. People often ask me, Richard, well, how do you cope with being blind in the real estate profession? I don't even think about it. It's just a natural part of what I do. I never think about me as blind. You know, sometimes my kids joke with me, say, Daddy, you driving today? Or even, and sometimes I think in my head, I should be able to drive. However, I may not see the other guy, although I can drive, and that might hurt somebody. So I don't want to be part of that. But the thought of driving, if you gave me a wide open field and a measurement and said drive, that is certainly a possibility. Now, that's without obstacles. So it's not how we see ourselves. I mean, it's not how people see us, but how we see ourselves. I believe I can drive. I know I can. But other people see me and say, no, he can't. But if you create the right set of circumstances, Richard will drive. Now, it's the same thing in life. We have opportunities to do great things. However, with those opportunities, we must capitalize. There's responsibility that comes with those opportunities. Uh, we have to be able to take advantage of the gifts we receive. You know, not all gifts people like. The holidays bring many gifts to many people. Some gifts stay in the closet. Some become very practical for use and application, and some gifts get returned. So the bottom line is, you receive several gifts in life. What you do with those gifts is your choice. And as we talk about, you can consider everything gift, even the gift of blindness. I can't change it, so I might as well consider it a gift. I can't give it back, so I might as well consider it a gift. There's nothing I can do with it other than work with it. So it is a gift. Now, how can I use that gift? That gift gives me a great deal of freedom in many ways. Um, it gives me a great deal of access. It allows access to a great deal of resources that other people may or may not need, may or may not have access to. But fortunate for me, I have access to those resources. So I can do things that would be challenging for others. I can still continue to do those things. So it is how you look at your situation. I remember in my early years, as they build character and personality and habits and so forth, there were two things that struck me. One president of the United States, even though he was in the wheelchair, became president of the United States. His brother, on the other hand, went in a totally opposite direction. I heard also from a gentleman who is now part of my library, although he's now left us, passed on. But he said, Zig Ziglar said, you can get anything you want out of life if you help enough other people to get the things that they want out of life. that has been a guiding philosophy as part of my world for many years. So I say, diversity is the focus of the discussion, but we can talk about diversity in many ways, whether it's individuals, whether it's businesses, whether it's our communities. The bottom line is, regards to what the diversity factor is, the integration is necessary so that we can accomplish together. Uh, the challenge associated oftentimes with being a person of color is there's a level of expectation. Uh, there's a number of things that people sort of generalize about: poverty, drugs, crime, uh, subsidies, welfare. Um, None of these things that people generalize about are true. If you check the facts, there are more people on public assistance of Caucasian and other persuasions than there are of African Americans. But there's this popular perception that many Black Americans are sitting at home waiting for a welfare check and doing nothing um, to help themselves. I know many African Americans across this country, and families struggle every day, work every day to provide for their families. The few who may fit into that category are so small that they become insignificant in the process of people of color. Crime. Yes, there is a great deal of it in many of our communities, but it is the result of a lack of a number of things. Major among those, as the society would suggest, is education. But there are such challenges in that arena today that nobody can agree on what's the appropriate type of education to provide to eliminate many of the challenges. And folks are still wrestling with that. Maybe you, as a part of the audience in this situation, may have an opportunity to work in that arena, may have some thoughts about education. That might be forward thinking, because we certainly need to be thinking forward about how we solve the problems that we've created over the last several hundred years. I listened to a video um, recently. The context was about education, and the purveyor of that message indicated that the classrooms are the same today as they were several hundred years ago, although the mission of the education system has changed, or should have changed with the time. And just to paraphrase a bit of what was mentioned, the cell phone of 200, sorry, the phone of 200 years ago versus the cell phone of today was a glaring comparison of how things have progressed, among other things that we're using. So we can look back, we can look forward, but education is a fundamental part of the process. When we talk about financial opportunity, we come back to education again. Although there are many who have had the opportunity to start from humble beginnings and build great businesses in the African American community and other communities of color. Um, my Asian brothers do a wonderful job of keeping business moving, keeping it in communities, and flourishing in almost every community. Um, I see the same thing in among my Hispanic brothers. So they everybody has an opportunity to make something happen for themselves and their families. America is still a land of opportunity. However, you have to take the initiative to reach out for the opportunity. It is not going to be thrown into your lap. Nobody is willing to give you, generally speaking, $1 billion or $1 million, even $1,000. So If you're going to get financial resources, you have to make your way to where the financial resources are. Get into the field, whichever field works for you, whether it's work or entrepreneurship, you know, employment, whatever it's going to work for you to be able to get you to where you are based on your life plan. And your life plan may not be someone else's life plan. So you can't measure your success by someone else's success. The only person to whom you should, the only person with whom you should compete is you. The bottom line is, to get to where you are, you have to set a path. You have to have a direction and a goal. Whatever that happens to be for you should not be relative to anybody else's situation. Only to the extent that you have to do what you need to do, providing it's all legal and safe to get you to where you're going. Sometimes you look for support in those areas, but by and large, it is your struggle, your fight, and you have to take on that challenge and move forward. It's okay to point fingers and say somebody else did not. But as I say to others, as I have heard, whenever you point, cast blame, which I don't encourage by a long shot. I don't think you should blame anybody for your weaknesses or shortcomings because it's all up to you. But to the extent that you will work to blame or point finger at somebody else, then think whenever you point one at somebody else, there's three others pointing back at you. So uh, you can hold yourself accountable and responsible. That is the best way to make progress. It's the reflecting on you inside is how you move forward on the outside. You have to change you on the inside in order to make bigger steps, walk with greater confidence, speak with greater confidence, help to others to get where they want to be. You know, how you reach out beyond yourself. Because when you're thinking just of yourself, you know, most people say, uh, or many, I should say, many people say that, you know, you have to think of yourself before you think of others. Now, that may be true in many cases for many of you. However, I like to think if you think of others first, there are many others to think of you. And you're not giving to get. That's not the philosophy or thought. It's giving of yourself because there is a power beyond you. And the more you give, the more you receive from that power that's greater than you are. So stop thinking scarcity and think plenty. Um, that will create some diversity in itself because there are many individuals who think I have to hold on to what I have now because I may not get any more. And the world says, the universe says, not the world, I'm sorry, the universe says there's an abundance of everything you want. You just have to work towards that acquisition of what you want. We have spent a number of years sharing ideologies, helping people to succeed, many of whom have succeeded and helped others to do so. And I like that concept of each one help one. And to that extent, we have opportunities to help those of you who are interested in our specialization, which is real estate investing and wealth building through real estate. So if that's something you have an interest in, we'd love to connect to you as part of this process to help you to realize your goals. Now, there are many other areas that we facilitate, connect you, help to make connections in, and it's about connections. The world in which we live is now. If you haven't heard it before, I hope this is not the first time you hear it. But the world in which we live is now about connections. It is Facebook connections. It's an Instagram. It is Twitter. It is connections. But we should not, in those connections, lose track of the human connection because that is still one of the most important connections you can make. I have grandkids and they isolate themselves to a point where I now have to enforce removal of video games and time for them to speak to other people rather than, uh, you know, sort of stay focused on video games for numerous hours in the day. Help them to appreciate that there are other things to do besides video games. So there's nothing wrong with video games. There's nothing wrong with television. It all has to be balanced. And in the discussion about diversity, we have to create diversity in our homes that will allow our children to feel like there are other things to do than television or than video games. We cannot allow our children's minds to be wasted in such a way that they lose their creativity, because that is what makes us unique. One of the factors that makes us unique as human beings. You know, I've shared a lot with you this evening about me, about work, about life. One thing I did not tell you is that after I lost my sight from several surgeries, um, it was a sobering thought to do some research and realize that only 93% of the people who have glaucoma ever lose their sight from glaucoma. Had I did that research prior to um, taking the doctor's advice about surgery, I would, knowing myself, would have probably taken the 7% uh, chance of going blind out of the equation and gone with a 93% chance of retaining my sight. But I did not do the research in a timely fashion. Lesson to be learned: anytime you're faced with a challenge or adversity, get the knowledge, do the research before you get embroiled in a situation that becomes emotional, no sense of direction, make the wrong choices, and therefore have to work backward or work back into the situation rather than continuously working forward. I'd like to leave you with a final thought. We talked about imagination earlier and perception. The perception of you, your perception of yourself, whether you're confident, poised, whether you're shy, introvert, or whatever you perceive yourself to be now, is where you are. That's the starting point. Think of what you want to do, where you want to be, ultimately, your destination, your goal. And look at the people that are there and determine what qualities you now have to develop in order to make that journey. Are you going to make it in a rowboat, a motorboat, cabin cruiser, or a yacht? How are you going to make that trip? Are you going to make it on we could do bicycles, motorcycles, mopeds, or Harley Davidsons. There's a comfort ride. I know some friends who have Harleys and they ride, listen to music, electric lights. It's a way of life. It's an experience. It's how you want to live, how you want to grow, how you want to go. So you make that determination. And I promise you, if you make the adjustments in your life that are necessary to get where you want to go, and you make the effort to get there, making those adjustments, you will arrive at your destination, fulfilled, happy, without regrets, with lots of support from friends and family who are enjoying the journey with you. And if you don't, then you'll have lots of things to feel sorry for, that you missed. And that is not a way to live. Being sorry when you offend is okay. Being sorry when you didn't accomplish is something you can always fix. So I encourage you to look at the things you want to do, look at the challenges, and create ways to overcome the challenges you face with the help of others if necessary. There's always somebody willing to help. You have to find that person. So don't let anything stand in your way of your success because only you can create your success. Although you may have to do it with the support of others. You know, every vendor needs a person to come in and buy something. Every doctor needs a patient. Every pilot needs a co-pilot. So we all need somebody. I'll encourage you to look for that person that will help you to reach your destination. It is ultimately, though, your responsibility to get there, whether they help or not. And in many cases, we can create paths with our thinking and imagination, creative enough to get us to our destinations in a timely, healthy, happy state of mind. I'll leave you with that thought. If I can be of future service, please reach out by the email